Welcome to another weekly featured business brought to you by Visibility Impact and your host, James Moffat, where he will gracefully take our featured guest on a personal and business journey and stories that will inspire, educate, and engage you.
Hello, and welcome to another, I was going to say Friday featured business, but we don't always do it on Fridays anymore. We do it as and when it's available and convenient for the guest and myself. So welcome to Featured Business, brought to you by your host, myself, James Moffat, and Visibility Impact. So today we have a wonderful guest, our first guest of the year, because I've been moving country, and this is the first one of the new season. So welcome, Pam.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
You're welcome. So Pam, I'm saying Pam, so this is obviously an abbreviation, a short name of your full name. So tell me what your full name is.
It is Pamela Edwards, but I only get called Pamela when it's either Sunday or I've done something really naughty, which doesn't happen very often. These days.
Normally with parents, they would say Pamela.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I've been called all sorts of names. With a name like James, I've been called Jimbo, Jimmy, Jamie, Jim.
Yes.
And now I'm happy with James.
Mm.
So, Pam, welcome to the show. So, just for the viewers, because this also goes out on the YouTube channel, so people can watch the recording there, and the audio will also be made available on Spotify. So, Pam, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you. We met actually through LinkedIn. Actually, I meet a lot of my guests that way, and it's a great place because you can actually find some like-minded, beautiful people there, and that's how we connected.
Indeed.
So, a real pleasure to have you. So I'm very interested, and the audience and the viewers would be interested in knowing who is Pam. Right. So let's just take you on a journey down memory lane. And first of all, where are you living and where are you originally from?
I'm living in Nottingham in the UK, and I've always lived here. I was born here. I've always lived here.
Right. So this is your Nottingham accent.
It is not really, no.
Oh.
It's the accent that I always speak with, mainly because my mother was from Derbyshire. My father was a Scotsman. And when I used to come home from school and start talking in the Nottingham accent, which actually grates on me something awful. But my mother used to say, just because you come from Nottingham, you don't have to advertise it. So finish those words properly, otherwise. So it's the Nottingham accent got taken out of me quite early on. Yes.
Could you switch to it if you wished?
Yes.
Yeah. Could you give us a little bit or...
Ooh. Something along the lines of, hey up me ducky, okay. You got a weir?
Nice.
Which is, hello, dear. Are you all right? And have you got her with you? Which would be mostly something that men would say because they're talking about their wife or girlfriend. So, yes.
Yeah, I like accents. I mean, similarly, I'm originally from Edinburgh in Scotland and moved to Newcastle when nobody could understand me from there when the family moved to Brighton. So from a broad northeast Geordie accent, talking to a southerner, they thought you were a foreigner. And it was quite funny because there's certain phrases that you use. I would say I would say something like, how we man, are we ganning our the tune?
Uh-huh.
All right. It's just like, and then I had to translate it. What does that mean? I would say like, come on, friends, guys, are we going into town? And I said, oh, it doesn't sound anything like that. And it's funny because particularly when you live abroad and then you start using different accents and different dialects and things, I mean, you really confuse people because I'm thinking like languages are difficult, but accents and different regions where people come from and dialects can be very, very confusing.
They certainly can.
Even like within the UK, I mean, you can get caught out by not understanding. And also now, I think, I know we're digressing a little bit, but children tend to have slang, a lot more slang, new slang than kind of when we were kids. And there's words that I have no idea what they're talking about anymore. When I go and visit and I go back to the UK and I'm hearing teenagers talking, I have no idea because they've added so much like slang into there and the accent. It's evolving all the time.
Indeed, yes, it's a fascinating subject, language.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll park that because we could talk about that for a long time. So, Nottingham, you're a Nottingham girl, and actually, wasn't that where Robin Hood came from?
Indeed, yes.
So, did you have to read Robin Hood at school?
No.
And the forest.
The forest is still there. It's very much smaller than it would have been in his time, of course. The major oak is still there and still flourishing. So yeah, it's a lovely place to go. But Nottingham has never made anywhere near enough of the legend of Robin Hood. They've not exploited it the way they could have done, or expanded it and really shown us how important a part of history it was.
Which is quite a shame, really, because we took the kids on a tour of the UK. So we started off in the south of England, down in Brighton, and we ended up in Edinburgh. And we stopped off at different places on the way. And it was not a place, I mean, although people have heard the story of Robin Hood, we never explored that on the way. We did other things. We did train museums. We did Birmingham. We did Bentley Museum up in the northeast, and Durham and other places. And we also did the castle of Harry Potter. So Harry Potter seemed to be more famous in a way, or infamous in a way, than Robin Hood. Now, you're right. I mean, they could have played on it much more, that it would become a tourist attraction that go to Nottingham because that's the home of Robin Hood. And the oak tree is still there. Go and see the oak tree.
Yes, for sure. And of course, we've also got a very famous lace industry, and it was very famous. We don't have it now. But there's Raleigh and Player. They all had big major employers and major factories that were based in Nottingham for many years. So there's an awful lot in Nottingham to actually come and see, but it's not really been exploited enough or expanded and made really interesting. So
wasn't there an advert on TV with, do you know, tunes, the pastel thing that you take when you're all congested? I think it was that. Maybe I'm completely off on a tangent here, but wasn't there an advert that you take a tune and you suck it, and the menthol release would clear your nose? Because wasn't there an advert that said that there was a guy saying Nottingham, but he was all congested and nasally, and you're going,
I vaguely remember something about that, yeah.
And he took I don't know if it was a tune, I mean, these menthol sweets called tunes, and it released the vapor and it cleared his nose, and they said, you went from Nottingham to Nottingham. I don't know, and maybe I'm just going mad.
I think I do remember that advert, actually. It's really peculiar that you wouldn't think about it now, because I don't think they even do those particular lozenges anymore, but yes,
Yeah.
I do remember that one.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't that at all. Maybe I have to look it up. Maybe I'm just going mad, right? But
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't even Nottingham, but I think it was. But I'll check. Maybe I'll check that out. So anyway, so you've grown up there, lived there all your life. Would you say you're an adventurous person then?
I have been in the past. I've done quite a few things. I used to be in the Women's Royal Naval Reserve.
Mm.
So went on various different exercises and had some fun times with the Navy for 12 years before I had the family. So yes, I have done a lot of things.
So you've got your sea legs.
Funnily enough, I don't like going to sea very much.
But you went to sea a lot.
No, not really, because it was before the Wrens were allowed to go to sea. So they changed the rules about 10 years after, it might not have been 10 years, but a few years after I left, they started to allow Wrens to go to sea. And that was a bad decision for the Navy, bad decision. But we'll talk about that another day. But no, when I was in, they were not allowed to be on board ship overnight. So you could go on for the day and you could go out on the water for the day, but you couldn't stay overnight.
Yeah. I've heard of hen parties. So it's because they didn't want a wren party.
Yeah, you'd be surprised at some of the stuff that goes on in the Navy.
Yeah, I can imagine. Right. So anyway, you've alluded now that you have a family. So you have children?
I have 2 boys. They are young men now. They're in their 40s now.
Wow.
So yeah. One's a degree qualified engineer and about to start a very interesting and highly confidential job. And the other one owns his own gym in Nottingham. He's one of the highest qualified strength and conditioning coaches and nutritionists in the country.
Oh, so that's why you've kept so young looking and fit and healthy.
Oh, I try.
So he's always he's saying, Mum, like, you've got to try this. You've got to like keep yourself fit and healthy.
He's given me a few pointers over the years, yes.
All right.
And then gets annoyed when I forget to do them.
I can imagine. Right, so it was probably the other way around. Like when you're younger, you're telling him that he has to like eat healthy and everything else, and he's taking no notice. And now it's the opposite way.
Yeah, yeah.
So then, growing up as a kid, what type of things interest you? I mean, hobbies and sports or anything?
I've never been particularly sporty. But I used to enjoy reading a lot as a child, and generally getting out and enjoying myself. My sister, who was a few years older than me, used to drag me out with her when she was going to university dues and things. So I got into music quite early on, and I've always enjoyed going dancing and having a good time. And then we got into the Navy, so it's all around having a good time, various different things. So yeah, it's been an interesting life. I've met some very fascinating people over the years.
Yes. So you mentioned you have a sister. So how many siblings do you have?
I have a sister and a brother.
All right.
My sister passed a few years ago. My brother's still around, but I don't see anything of him.
All right. And yeah, so as a kid, I mean, did you like nature?
Indeed, yes. Yes, couldn't get out into it very much, although I used to live across the road from what was an abandoned farm. The farmer had gone back to Ireland with all his 14 children and just left the farm. So all the kids off the estate used to go and play on the fields. So, yeah, it's all good.
And the animals were still there?
No, they got rid of all of those. But when I was much younger, we did used to see the cows in the field. I think when I got to around about 10, I think it might have been, he just abandoned the whole place.
So left it as a play area for the kids.
Yeah.
Were you far from the forest? Because you mentioned the forest earlier.
At that time, yes, we were quite a distance from it, because the Sherwood Forest itself has shrunk quite a bit. And for many years, of course, growing up in the 50s, early 60s, we didn't really have a car. So, and there weren't the buses to get out there. So we had to we did have, I grew up in a place called 𝗚𝗨𝗘𝗏 in Nottingham, and that has a very large park. It's a nature park and wildlife museum, I suppose, a lot of it, or was then. I think it's changed a bit now. So we often used to go up to 𝗚𝗨𝗘𝗏 Hall and go round the hall and see all the old stuffed animals, and get scared silly, because as you go round one corner in the bottom of the corridor, there is this enormous gorilla, and it's always used to make us jump. You don't know why, because once you know it's there, it's there. And they have a lovely population of deer on the park as well. So we often used to see the deer wandering about, and go down to the lake and feed the ducks and the swans. I had some great times on 𝗚𝗨𝗘𝗏 Park. It was built on a big hill.
Did they have a boating lake?
It wasn't a boating lake at 𝗚𝗨𝗘𝗏 Park, no. We had to go down to the university to go to the boating lake.
Yeah, it just reminds me, when I grew up, I mean, very much outdoors. I mean, we didn't have computer games and things like that when I was a kid. And
no, nor me.
When I look like at my kids and that, I wish they didn't have them today, right?
Yeah.
Because I was likewise with you. I mean, we were out in all weather. We didn't care about the weather. I don't recall feeling cold and wet and not wanting to go out, right? It was just every opportunity to get outside, regardless of the weather. Yeah. I mean, and then to explore, make up your own games and do things. But we had a park as well, and with a boating lake on it, and it just brings back memories that go around the boating lake on these wooden boats with 2 oars and going around there. Because where I've moved now, there is a boating lake, and it's kind of got a flashback of like,
oh, right,
when you're a kid, like, wow, there's a boating lake there. And I've never seen a boating like that since I was a kid growing up. And that was actually in your kind of neighborhood. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, the boating lake is still down at the university, so people can still go down there. And it used to have a Lido down there as well, but that got filled in. Became dangerous for some reason or other. They filled it in.
Yeah. So I think, looking back now at nature, because I think I appreciate nature more now that I'm older. I was just out in nature when I was younger, and I enjoyed being out in it, but I didn't necessarily appreciate it like as I do now, because I look at things now and I see the beauty of them. I think about the smell rather than just know that there's a smell there in the forest. I think about it, and I feel that smell. I feel the ambience and the comforts also of being in the outdoors. And it's great now because I'm experiencing the outdoors in a different way as I did when I was a kid. And I try to get my kids now, I stop. I say, if we go for a walk in the forest, I say, let's just stop and be quiet, stop talking, because they talk so much. There'd be no wildlife there anyway, because it would hear you coming. So I just say, like, stand still. And then we stood still and we saw some wild pigs and the little baby ones as well go in front of us. And I said, see what you can see if you stand still and just be quiet.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, because now that's the topic of the day. Oh, yeah, we saw these baby pigs and whatever. And yeah, but the smells, I mean, like, smell, tell me what you smell. And yeah, you miss the beauties and the simplicities of life when you're stuck behind a computer or gaming. I'm not saying that I'm against it all, because it's also a form of education, but there's a time and a place and a restriction on how much that you watch on a game or gaming, as opposed to being outside and doing other things. Right? There has to be a balance.
It certainly does, yes. And I believe that there's a lot more children starting to get back into nature and really beginning to understand a little bit more about it now. Because when I do go out, if I go down to the river or down to the 𝗘𝗔𝗖𝗛𝗏 Park, where not far from where I live, I do start to see families out with the children, and they are starting to begin to appreciate it, because they've got the freedom to run about and play, obviously, because a lot of houses and don't have big gardens like I used to have. And it's quite nice to see it starting to happen. But so many of them just run around. They're not necessarily stopping to listen or to watch. So that's...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my kids, I mean, they're so busy talking with each other. They're not looking at where they're going. And yeah,
that's down to us to educate them, to make them stop.
Yeah. So now, I mean, to me, this is the most beautiful time of year, because it's the spring.
Yeah.
And this is when everything comes to life. And you can just look at everything, the flowers coming out through the grass. I mean, then the trees starting to bloom and everything. And it's just a beautiful, to me, this is the best time of year.
It is, yes. It's a wonderful time of year.
I know it's not too hot, and I know that the summer is to come, right? So make the most. I'd like the spring to be all year round. Everything constantly growing. Beautiful.
Yeah.
But anyway, so let's just have a look into kind of your school and education. I mean, did you have, like, when you were at school or as a child, any ambitions to do something in particular? Do you have a goal or a dream of what you wanted to do later in life?
Not so much in the early years at school, but through secondary school, I did think I would become a teacher or a geologist. And then I found out that it was going to take me at least 7 years to qualify as a geologist, and I thought, blow that. But I was severely put off, because at the time, going to sixth form was a case of going to... there weren't many colleges about at the time, so you would go to the grammar school to go to the sixth form. And the only option in my area at the time, because of my religion, would be to go to the convent school. So I do vividly remember meeting Mother Superior on the open day that we all went across to the school, and the term battle axe was very appropriate. She was horrible. Oh my goodness me. And I'd come through, my secondary school was a mixed school, so I'd got quite okay with having boys and men about. So, but this was a bit of a revelation. And she, at that time, if you were doing A levels, you had to do English literature. There was no choice. It wasn't English language at all. It was literature. And she said, the first book you will learn, you will study when you start in September, is the Iliad by Homer. I thought, what? Never heard of Greek mythology. What on earth is this? So we got given this book and told to study it over the summer holidays. Well, every time I picked it up, I had to start again because I couldn't work out who was what. I couldn't remember what was going on in the book. And it was so complicated. Particularly when I'd never come across it before. We'd done a bit of Shakespeare at school through the English stuff, but we'd never really read the classics as such. And so I thought, well, I'm not happy with this. I'm going to go and get a job. So I went to Boots because the head office is in Nottingham, and I got a job in their estates office because geography was one of my passions. I've always enjoyed geography. So I got a job in their estates office and sent the book back to the school. So the chances of me going to become a teacher or a geologist went out the window.
Which is quite sad. I mean, when you wanted to be a teacher, was there a particular subject you wanted to teach?
I probably would have gone with geography.
All right. But you had to do all of this literature before you could do that.
Yeah.
And nowadays, you don't, I guess.
No, I think nowadays it's much more open and free choice. So I don't think there's the restrictions that there was then.
Because I see you get lots of stand-in teachers that can come and teach a program or a subject with the kids that don't even have to have the knowledge of that. They're given the book, and then normally the night before they read up on what they're going to teach for that day.
Which makes
so completely different
quality. Well, yes, and it makes you wonder about the quality of teaching that your kids are going to get.
Exactly. But I know we could talk a lot about education. I think we could have another show just about education, because I mean, from having 3 young children, and I see, particularly moving countries as well, seeing education. I mean, it's too much focus on academia and not enough on kind of emotional intelligences and things that really kids experience on a daily basis, like fear. I mean, my younger son never had a problem going to school, and he'd go with his friends and everything was fine. And yeah, he was a happy-go-lucky, jolly chap. And coming to the school here, it took 3 weeks of hell to get him to go to school. He just would not go. He feared it so much. And even though he was going with his twin sister, he would not go. And yeah, I mean, so there's nothing that addresses that. I mean, you take him to the school and he won't go in, and the teachers aren't there to try and, I mean, to a certain degree, they try to encourage, but they haven't got time for that. It's not their role. You have to figure it out. I mean, so, and now, I mean, now he goes and he says to me, "Daddy, I didn't cry today," right? And then the next day he said, "Daddy, I didn't cry today either. And I'm happy going to school." And he said, yesterday, he said, "Oh, it was the best day of school I've ever had."
Oh, right.
And yeah, so, but there's a lot of things, particularly when it comes to education. I mean, we had to kind of do it our best way. It's through frustration and perseverance, but also trying to be firm, but also trying to understand how he must be feeling. And it's not easy. I mean, luckily, 3 weeks later, he's now fine. But there's these challenges that you come across that to me, is it the responsibility of to a certain amount, it is the parents, but also school. Maybe if school focused a lot on fear and bullying and teasing and other things that happen on a daily basis, then the kids would be better prepared. They would have kind of a better understanding that, oh yeah, I learned about that. No, it's not good to tease someone because this is how it feels. This is what it affects them. And once they understand that, then they think twice about doing it. I mean, you can either do it and you're the bully, or you're the victim of a bully. And both are bad, right? So, but anyway, I know we digress a little bit, but education, to me, the schooling system needs to be shaken up and rethought, restructured from the beginning.
Yeah, completely. Yes.
So that you weren't a teacher, you are kind of a teacher now.
Yeah, I am.
But before we go there, so what types of jobs have you done then to carrying on from where you left off?
Oh, goodness me. I have been an event organizer and social secretary on a number of different committees. Certainly was when I was in the Navy. So,
what sort of events? Parties?
Not just parties, but some of the big occasions, the Trafalgar Ball and various other big events. And I've organised a couple of weddings for people. And one of the last events I did was creating a country house hotel weekend for a lady who was having her 60th birthday.
Wow.
But
so
because her birthday was close to Christmas, she decided that she was going to have a summer event, a summer birthday. And she'd got family and friends from all over the world and wanted them all to come with her, to come and join. She's never married, so she was using some money that she got put aside. And we created a 20s theme and a country house hotel weekend, which are absolutely fabulous. We hired a live band for the Saturday night. We hired a fun casino and a grand piano with a singer who could sing like Noel Coward, because that was her favourite singer. So it was, and then on the Sunday we had games from the 1920s, and all the guests had to be in 1920s outfits over the weekend. So it was a perfect weekend. The weather was absolutely fabulous. And I put all of that together for her.
Wow.
But the funny thing was that when we went travelling around Derbyshire and North Nottinghamshire to find the right hotel. And as soon as we walked into this particular place, which was the Old Bell Inn at Barnaby Moor, I thought, oh dear, this is the place, and the budget's just gone out the window. I mean, when you walk into the ladies' loo and in the anteroom where you do your makeup and stuff, there is an enormous chandelier hanging from the ceiling and an enormous gilt mirror that fills the whole wall. You know that you are, and you've sunk into the carpet as you walk in as well. You kind of know that you're in trouble.
But that's what you used?
Yes, that's where we went. Because she said, I didn't say anything to her. I said, what do you think? Because they took us on a tour around the facilities and they saw some of the bedrooms. And it's an old 16th century coaching inn. And they had spent, at that time, they'd spent about 4 million refurbishing it.
Wow.
And it was absolutely fabulous. All the bedrooms were a different theme. It was a beautiful place.
So did you video this as well? I mean, the event?
No, she didn't want it videoing.
Why? It sounds so good.
But it was absolutely fabulous. They looked after us so well.
So obviously, I mean, that went over the budget. So she agreed on the extra.
Yeah, she said that everything else that we've seen, she said, no, it's not worth it. Can't do it. It's got to be here.
All right.
That was her choice, not mine.
Is she still married?
No, she never married. She's still here. Yeah. And we have become friends over the years as well.
All right. Okay. So how did you get involved in that then? Because, I mean, did you do training, or how did you get into kind of events organization? I mean, you mentioned in the Wrens, but did you volunteer yourself, think, oh, I could do that? Or did you have an experience of a bad one and think, oh, I could do better?
Well, everything I have done is not so much formal training, but people have said, can you organise this? And I'm a natural organiser anyway. I come from an ex-military family. You have to be organised. So I'm organising things.
Are your bookshelves organised?
Am I what, sorry?
Are your bookshelves organised?
Near enough. They are separated now. I've got another bookcase in the back with more general fiction stuff and interesting books. This lot is all to do with business. So
do you think that's a natural gift then of yours, being an organizer?
Yeah. So when I was in the Navy, I was the social secretary of our local area. So I was organising a lot of different things going on there. And then as I started, came out of there because I got married and had a family. And at that point, you couldn't actually stay in the reserves or in the Navy if you got family. And again, that's changed. So it's very different. So as I started taking the boys to playgroup and stuff, I got involved in the social side of that as well. And then I was well known at the time for making celebration cakes. And the organising of the weddings and parties came as a result of creating celebration cakes. So I've done all sorts of different cakes for people for all kinds of different events and organised various different things for them. So organising that sort of stuff and standing up and speaking is no problem for me. But when I became self-employed, I began to realise that there was an issue for a lot of people because they'd never been taught how to speak. In fact, many people are told to sit down and shut up because nobody wants to hear what they have to say when they're children. And so you think, why would I want to stand up and speak in front of a room full of people I don't know? And that stops people from being as articulate as they could be and as effective as they could be when they go networking or need to present their business. And that's how I started.
So, yeah. I mean, it is very fascinating because it's something that you wouldn't necessarily go to learn at college or university. Yeah. This is typically something that is already inherent within you, and you're just perfecting it by doing it. Yeah. And you're learning from the results that, we could have done that one a bit better. That was a bit of a disaster, or that was fantastic, and how we can make that even better. So a bit of a trial and error, but nevertheless, it's a learning process and to a way that you perfect it. But like you said, how many times at school that you never ask a question because you feel that intimidation, you feel that shyness, you feel that you're going to be ridiculed if you ask a question that maybe is not appropriate or you should have known the answer. And I say to my kids, ask the questions. But before we did that, I said, this is kind of what you're going to expect back either from the other kids in the class, and they're either going to look at you, laugh at you, or whatever. But if you can handle that, because most of the time is how you react to something. If you know how to handle it, then you don't care. And I remember that in meetings, in sales meetings I would ask them if they had any questions, and nobody would ask a question. I think, so you must have a question. It can't all be that clear. No. And they said that we don't have questions. And And so then I would change it around the other way. I'd keep pausing during presentations and asking them, do they understand? Is this clear? If this is not clear, I'll explain it again. So there's always the pause, and not wait until the end and ask if there's any questions, and then they were already confused at the beginning but never asked.
Oh yes, you see it all the time. You know, it's
But it is, so the events thing, I mean, to do an event like that is a massive event and massive credibility. So congratulations on that. But you said that as one of many. So where did your kind of career go? I mean, did you go into events organization, or did you do something completely different?
No, I created that company. When I was doing the cakes, I was known as 𝗘𝗘𝗔𝗧𝗨𝗥. And alongside all of the celebration cakes and the parties, I also created a wedding fair, and got involved with other people organising wedding fairs as well. And a friend and I also created a Christmas fair for a local village. That was an interesting exercise, with all kinds of different elements to bring together. People having stalls for the Christmas fair that ran over 2 nights, and having to coordinate with the local police to close the roads off for the village and all that sort of stuff as well. So,
so you're really a facilitator of all of this. I mean, because I mean, as we were talking earlier about different persona types of people, I mean, you can get kind of the creative thinker that thinks of the ideas, but they're useless at implementing them. Then you kind of got the implementer, the organizer, the orchestrator of it all. And I mean, from what you said, you're very much persona type of an orchestrator. You manage like all the different things that have to be done.
Yeah.
And so it would have been good to bring that out, like as I said, like in the school years, and then to focus on that and think, what career could you build around doing that, rather than kind of stumbling across it yourself and then getting into different jobs. And I mean, maybe some people never find that because they never discover what they're truly good at. So your journey went on to many different things, because I mean, I've read your notes, but I don't want to like give away any of the secrets. I want you to tell us, right? But I mean, some fascinating stories that you've got. I mean, like the show could go on forever, you telling us, but I want to kind of just finish off kind of a quick snapshot of the career, and then move into what you're doing now and why you're doing what you're doing now.
So from working at Boots, I then went to be a civil servant in the land registry, and did that until I had the family. And when I came back, started coming back, wanting to come back to work after I'd had the family, I started working with my brother, who at that point was a second-hand commercial van sales operation. And I took him, or we travelled through a number of different transitions, expanding the company and going in a slightly different direction. We became a self-drive hire company, and then started to become a courier company, and then gradually got to bigger and bigger vehicles. And over the period of 18 years, he would come in and say, "Oh, I've had an idea. I want to go in this direction. So go and sort it out, see what we need to do." And so I became very good at dealing with all kinds of different authorities, and making sure that we were running legally and everything. And ultimately, I created, because he was either in the pub or on the golf course doing his sales pitch, so. But I created the company into a nationwide home delivery specialist.
Wow.
That was 65 staff and 25 HGV strong. And I was managing that on a daily basis. And we were the first company in the country to bring in 2-hour time delivery windows. And then we honed that down even further to a maximum of 45. So if people were within 3/4 of an hour traveling distance from their home to work, we could say, right, okay, the driver would give them a call on the way through. We're going to be with you around about this time. And they could come home and meet them, take the delivery, and then go back to work. And that was very useful because a lot of the people that we were delivering to were professional people, and they couldn't afford to be at home all day waiting. So that was very much appreciated. That all went pear-shaped due to external circumstances. And then I went to work for a contaminated land company.
That's just, sorry, I'm curious about that because there's a lot of things in common there with my childhood and my family in Scotland. But this could have been something massive. I mean, it was something massive. I mean, like you said, 65 staff or drivers, HGV drivers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it must have been a massive kind of business that you had.
Yeah.
So how come it just disappeared? I mean, did you sell it or?
Well, there was 2 things happened in fairly quick succession. First of all, he made a very bad decision against his business advisor's advice, but he made a decision to get involved with a company who had got their system was delivering furniture into stores and ours was delivering into homes, and they needed our expertise, and it theoretically opened a market for us. That was one of the worst decisions he's ever made, and it went pear-shaped. But at the same time, or about a year or so before, we had our major client who had pushed this expansion of the company, and I'm very good at moving offices as well, because we had to move premises to get bigger warehouses, like 6 times in 5 years. So we've really had to expand quite a lot because this one client wanted us to take everything for them, all of their furniture deliveries. And unfortunately, the guy that we were working with, their MD at the time in that department, got headhunted to a company down in Wales to do something completely different. And the people that they wanted us to then work with, or the chap that came in to replace him, wanted us to move our operation up to Doncaster, because that's where he had a friend who owned XL Logistics, and they wanted to move everything up there, which was it was totally impractical, because we would have had to completely restaff. Not only would you restaff the office, because you can't have the 2 operations separate, but you would have had to have restaffed the drivers, or you would have had to have got a couple of flats where they could stay over. Because with HGV drivers, this is how it used to be, I'm not sure if it still applies, but I think it does. If you live more than 30 minutes driving time from your place of work, you have to add that driving time to your official driving time. Well, they're restricted in hours anyway, so it's either 9 hours or you can extend to 10 hours twice a week. So Doncaster to Nottingham is probably about an hour and a half on a good day. And with our drivers, we used to send them out on 2 and 3 day runs at a time. So they'd be out either 2 days at the beginning of the week and then 3 days or swap it over. So they would come home in the middle of the week. But if your operations are outside of Doncaster, that's at least 3 hours that they can't be driving, delivering the goods. So one, you would have had to expand the driving force, or you would have had to put them in hotels or flats, you know, whatever was going to work. And so it just was totally not a workable idea. So we lost that contract. And then like 6 months down the line, he decided to go with this other company. And it all went very pear-shaped because that was not the way for us to go at all. So it all got lost.
Yeah, it's quite sad because I've seen on TV they did a documentary about what's the one? There's a big one in the UK. What's it? I forgot the name now.
Was that 𝗬𝗘𝗔𝗖𝗛𝗪?
Oh yeah, that was it. 𝗬𝗘𝗔𝗥.
Mm.
And I mean, it's a fascinating journey that they've been on, and also with the trucks, but they kind of started in a similar way. But if I look at my childhood, to just digress a little bit, sharing something. So my grandfather in Scotland, in Edinburgh, during the time that the activity that everybody liked as a social activity was going to the Greyhound Stadium, seeing the dogs racing, right? But it was difficult to get there because there wasn't a public transport infrastructure in place. So he thought he'll get himself a bus because he had a license, and then he would pick people up and drive them to there. So it all started there. Then he thought, well, what else could he do driving? And yeah, to cut a very long story short, he also went into haulage. So he got contracts as well. And then he had around 50, 60 HGV trucks. And they used to do national and international throughout Europe haulage. Then they went into coaches and bus trips around the country and also into Europe. And they did that in partnership with another company. Then they got with Conoco Petrol. They got the contract for the fuel. So it was a 5-year contract. So they went out and bought all these tankers as well. And then they delivered all the fuel to the whole of Scotland and the north of England for Conoco, or jet fuel, I think it was later became. And then my dad got involved in the business, and his two brothers. But yeah, the long and short of it, it doesn't really exist at all today, which is a great, great pity, because this is something that, I had aspirations of joining as well. I also have I took my license, my HGV 1 license in preparation for that. Never did it, never went into the business. It never existed. Parents divorced, and even though it carried my name, because my grandfather was called James Moffat, my father was called James Moffat, and I'm James Moffat. So I was James Moffat III. So I carried the name of the business because it was James Moffat and Sons. Yeah. And it is really quite sad. And I look at it and thinking, I wanted so much to be part of it and never had the opportunity, and now it doesn't exist. So there's a kind of a similar story there. But anyway, it's not about me. This is about you. So then from there, what happened, I mean, with the relationship and everything with your brother, and then where did you go next?
Well, that set me on a downward spiral, actually, because a few years before the company dissolved, I'd also got separated, consequently divorced. So I was actually in a very difficult position. My boys were late teens at that time, so they were ready for leaving home, whatever. And I'm trying to rebuild my life, and it all started to fall apart. So
did they, just stopping you, did they want to go into the business before it disappeared?
no,
It wasn't.
neither of them wanted. They enjoyed travelling every now and again, but neither of them wanted to go into haulage in that regard. They both worked in the company a little bit, but yeah. But so I got made redundant and consequently ended up on benefits and such like for a while. Was able to go and work with this contaminated land company, which was fascinating. It was a very small company. There's 7 scientists and me being the office manager. And so I started to understand a very small amount about how chemicals interact when the different chemicals go into the ground and they start to feed off each other and join and whatever. And they were specialists in helping change brown land from brownfield sites to greenfield sites so that we could build on them. And of course, the recession came along in 2008. So the construction industry disappeared, and I ended up losing that job. Another period of being on benefits and such like, and you don't realise just how depressed you get.
Yeah.
You don't realise just how much of an impact that has when you're focusing on wanting to get another job, but you're not giving out the right energies. You don't appreciate that. But
I know exactly how you feel, but we can talk about this offline. But I'm happy that you're sharing this. But also, you've gone from. Sometimes you feel. You've gone from this position where you've had 65 plus staff, you've had this big enterprise, and you've had lots of clients and a good business. Right, so you're kind of the executive, the director of a company, and then to nothing.
Yeah.
And then asking for benefits. It's just emotional state from you're right up there in the pinnacle of your career to the rock bottom.
Yeah, yeah. And having no support mechanism in place at home, because by that time I'm not with the ex-husband. So I've got all of the benefit, all the stress of trying to find a job while trying to keep on top of all the money as well and pay the mortgage and all of that sort of stuff.
And your kids.
Yes.
Yeah. Nobody sees that because, you want to protect your kids. You don't want them to expose them to everything and all the negativity. You're trying to keep a happy, smiley face and keep going, but inside you're burning up.
Yeah, but you don't see it at the time because you're focused on looking for that job, trying to keep yourself above water. So yeah, it was an interesting journey. Looking back at it, it is very interesting, but you don't realise the impact that that's having on you, and having lost 2 of the most important men in my life at the time, and my father had died some years before anyway. The whole thing just rolls up into a great ball, and you've got a cloud of black over your head and on your shoulders. It's very, very difficult.
Yeah, it's very easy then to give up.
Yes.
And think the world is against you. You're not good at anything, you're useless, and you look at all the negative things rather than kind of reconstruct it and look at the positive things. Because what you've told me now with the events organization, everything, there's some fantastic, beautiful, creative things that you do, but you don't look at that. You look at kind of life through a negative view, and it's difficult to get out of that. So what happened? So the other job, Which is quite ironic, because you said earlier that it was geography and other things that you had that passion for in teaching, and then you're doing something completely different with your brother.
Mm.
And then, although you've proven that you can organize things, because to organize something like that is fantastic. But then to move into something that was more your passion at the time, with the geography in the land and learning about the chemicals, and now to lose it all again. So did you also feel completely lost? You didn't know where to go, you didn't know what to focus on, you didn't know what to apply for?
Yeah. Well, I was applying for all kinds of things, but at the same time, I'm getting older. And of course, technology is moving on. And it took me a little while, but I then found a job in an international college, which is completely off the scale. But they decided that they wanted me to work with them to build their college up from the ground up. Because when I went in there, they had got office staff who hadn't got a clue, international students who didn't really know what the hell they were doing, and a structure that got so many holes in it, it was more like a piece of Swiss cheese. So I built that up from the ground up, and unfortunately, they refused to play by the rules of the border agency. And as you know, when you're dealing with authorities, you do as you're told. And I uncovered the fact that there were some shenanigans going on behind the scenes to get these students into the college. Because at that time, I don't know whether it's still the same, but and you may not remember, but in the UK, in the education system, the schools were given a budget. And if they didn't use all of that budget, they would lose the money from the following year. So the border agency had a similar system. And they had what they call a CAS certificate. So it's a certificate of application of acceptance to study. And the students have to go through this application process. And to do that, they have to have a certain level of English. What we found out was that when they were doing the tests, even though they were being recorded doing the tests, there was somebody at the background out of camera telling the students what the answers were.
Ooh.
So we then had a situation whereby I was getting calls from the border agencies at the airports. I think it was 6 or 8 calls came through within a couple of days of each other. And the agent on the end was saying, you do know this person can't speak English, hasn't got even a smattering of English. Oh, well, I'm in a situation where I can do absolutely nothing about that, because ultimately it's their choice. They have the authority to rescind a visa if you don't meet the requirements. So I had to say to the border agency, well, I'm sorry, but as far as we're concerned, that everything is as it should be, and we're expecting this student. But if you're telling me that they can't even speak basic English, then you have the authority, and I can't argue with you. You have the authority to send him back, cancel his visa. And consequently, they did that 6 or 8 times. And that set off an investigation.
Mm.
So they came in and they did their investigation, and they said, right, you've got a month, 28 days to sort it out, or you lose the license. And that's what we did. We lost the license because the management refused to do anything about it. mainly because the principal had got connections in high places and thought he could get out of it. And the board agent said, no, don't think so. Close the building down. So I lost that job as well. But I had created, within that time I was there, I had done all the recruiting for the staff, for the teaching staff as well as the office staff. I had put all the job descriptions in place. I'd done the training, not for the teachers, but I'd created the timetable for the teachers, created all the infrastructure that needed to be in place, or for it to be whisked away.
So the school closed down?
Yeah.
So you should have also been responsible then for vetting the students.
Yes, but that was somebody else's job within the school.
So whoever did that ultimately helped with the downfall of the company, of the business.
Yeah, definitely, because we also found out that he was taking backhanders from agents and students, so that the money that the students should have been paying wasn't all coming into the company anyway.
Lots of dodgy things.
Yeah, very much.
You find it with all businesses. I mean, I've worked for many companies that, they squandered that money when they went IPO, and millions are wasted on completely unnecessary things. And I think, and then it gets to a point years later that they've got no money at all. And I think, how could you waste so many millions? But anyway,
yeah,
that's the way it goes, and it still happens today. I mean, how many startups like raise money in various different rounds, then they go IPO, raise even more money, and then a few years later, there's nothing left. But the directors of the company got big houses, fancy cars, and yachts, and boats, and everything else.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
we digress. So then, I want to get to where you are now, because I'm hearing lots of stories. We just need to move along to get to your current position.
Well, it became more and more difficult for me to find a good job. And I got to the stage where I thought, I can't be doing with this anymore. I've got so much expertise and experience of working with independents. I'll do it for myself.
So how old were you at the time?
Late 50s.
Really?
Late 50s, yes. Yeah.
So the time that's coming to, like, you should be either thinking about or retiring. Now you're thinking about how to create your own business.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'd never been able to pay into a decent private pension. So that wasn't going to be an option anyway. But equally, I'm not the sort of person to sit around and do nothing either. I had to do something. So I created my own company, and initially I was focused on becoming one of the first VAs as they are now. And then I thought, I've done that for about a year, and I thought, I'm fed up with this. I've done it all my life. I don't want to do it anymore. And during that time, I'd started networking and begun to learn how to do it properly. And I saw so many people, obviously no understanding of how to do it, but equally no understanding of how to speak about what they were doing. And so Pitch Perfect Presentations was created. And I focused on helping people to be more confident speakers. And that morphed into Phoenix Rising Services, which is where we are now, because so often with my speaking clients, other things would come up, and I would start helping them with that because of the expertise I'd got from working with independents. So I'm working with all these people, helping them to build their speaking skills, and at the same time, they're asking me advice on how to do various different things within their business. So Phoenix Rising was created. And it's all about helping people to be more confident as a speaker, because that's a core part of what I do, and understand how to network effectively. And it's also about helping people who are at a crossroads, who want to do something different. Could be a new career, but most likely it's a new business. But I help them to work out exactly what it is that they need to do, and then to put a plan in place and make it happen. Because, as you know, a dream is just a wish until you actually take the steps and put the plans in place and start and make it happen.
Exactly.
And then I also have the business side of it, where I help people to create and develop that business. And because of my experience, I can take them from the pre-startup phase all the way through the various different phases of development, all the way through to becoming a great employer stroke leader. So I'm just about to take on 2 new clients who are going into their second stage development, where they've been floundering for a year or two, a couple of years actually, because they thought they'd got a business, but it's not actually working, because nobody's actually sat them down and said, okay, so what's the plan? Where do you want to be in 12 months' time? How are you going to get there? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you got this in place, that in place? None of that. Well, wait, you haven't got a business then. Because I think everybody goes through that phase where they think they've got a business because they've done the training and they've got the business cards and they've got the website, but then nothing happens.
I love it, because, yeah, a business without a plan is a dream.
Yes.
And yeah, you have to have a plan in place of what you're going to do. But you're exactly right. I mean, how many people out there are pushing you? Have you got a website? Right? I mean, you have to also question what it is your desired. I always say there's a desired outcome in mind that you have. What is the desired outcome, and work back to get it? So, do you need a website? What's the value of a website? What's the value of a website as opposed to landing pages? What is a landing page? How does a landing page work? I mean, and then you've got kind of the components of that. You've got the hook to draw people in, right? Then you've got to entertain them enough that they're interested in something, that there's an action, a call to action. And then to do something to get your desired outcome, which might be to set up a call, right? An exploratory call or something. But they don't think about that. I mean, I remember when I first started my business, it's exactly the same. I need to rush out and find someone that can build me a website. And then they ask me, what do you want in your website? I think, well, I have no idea.
No.
I've never had a website. So then they tell you what the standard components are. There's an about section, a home page, and contact page, and something about what you're offering. Right. But I'm clueless. And then now I've got this beautiful website I've spent a fortune on. It's not doing anything for me. Right. It's how to market the website, how to market. I mean, so there's what you're doing. Is invaluable for most, and most people and most businesses fail because they think that this is what they need. I need to hire people. I need to do this. I need to do that. And so they've spent all the money on all these things, but they're not bringing in any clients.
No, and a lot of two big mistakes that people make is they're brilliant at what they do, but they don't understand the business of being in business. But do they actually even start to understand what the website is there to do? The website is your shop window. The same as your 60-second or 10-minute presentation is your shop window. And when I say to people, if your window is boring, people are going to walk past and go to the next shop. You need to make it interesting to draw people in. So it's that they don't understand, because it's a crucial part of marketing. Every time we talk about our business, we are marketing ourselves, because people buy people. But the other thing that people don't understand is budgets. The number of people I speak to and say, well, what do you know if you're making a profit? I ain't got a clue. And it's one of the things that always surprised me when I've gone on a business course is that they don't talk about budgets. Fundamental, crucial to success. And people, then I start talking about the 3 different budgets: the survival budget, business budget, and living budget. What? Oh my goodness me. Not only do you not know if you can cover all your expenses, but you also don't know if you're making a profit or if you're charging the right amount of money for what you're doing. Oh, well, I charge so much. Well, yes, what about the work before and the work after the actual meeting? It's incredible that people don't understand that.
Yeah. I tell you, I absolutely love what you're saying, because it's logical and it should be common sense, but it eludes most people.
Yeah.
And you know, even people that you highly respect in business, and you think that they are kind of the business entrepreneur leaders, and they still have no idea. They've come. The problem is exactly what you said earlier. I don't know if we said it offline or during the show, but they come from the corporate world, and you've had that infrastructure behind you. You've had the people that are doing the jobs that you don't particularly like doing, or you're not any good at. And now you're on your own. There's so many other things that you have to do. And how do you manage those? You try to learn and do them, or do you get somebody else to do them? And yeah, I think maybe you've alluded to that as well, because in business, I mean, you can either be the sole proprietor, or you could be in a team like a startup or something. And it's understanding roles and how people interact and work together as a team. I always say it's the football analogy. You can have the Ronaldos, the Messis, the goal scorers, and they could score the best goals ever. But if they never get the ball, they're never going to score.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think in many respects, the way I've always focused on the fundamentals of business and making sure that we build strong foundations and a strong framework from then to be able to go off and build the business and hang the business on something. But if nobody sat you down and said, what do you want to do? And more importantly, why do you want to do it? What is the end result that you're looking for? And success means lots of things to lots of people. So I'm not about to tell people I can help you create a business that is going to make you goodness knows how many thousands of money. Not interested in that. I'm interested in creating sustainable, long-term business. The success comes according to what it is that any client requires. But if you don't actually stop and think about the why you want to do it, then when the challenges come along, as they inevitably will do, you think, oh, goodness me, this is too hard, and I go and get a job and give up too easily. So you have to really get people to connect with their why and to understand that business is not all fun and games. Sometimes it can be all right. Without wishing to say it. But it's just so important to make people stop and think, because being great at what you do is not enough.
I completely agree. And if you look at it, I mean, I read the book from Simon Sinek about Starts With Your Why. Now, I truly believed in that at the beginning, but then once I got involved, and I kind of changed the way I thought, because, yeah, exactly right. When it comes to why in your business, why are you doing that? Why do you get out of bed every day? What is it that is your end goal that you're trying to achieve? And then you've got to then look at it. Is it something that is serving a purpose? Is it serving the needs of others? Or is it just a kind of get rich quick scam or business that you're just focused on the money? I also followed someone else that said the money is a reward for a job well done, right? Money isn't the goal. Money is the reward, right? So focus on the goal. Focus on serving the needs of the person that's got the challenge or the problem. And if you can fulfill that need, so that there's basically three elements. There's the problem, solution, results, right? You're there with the solution to help them get the results, right? They have the problem, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just and then why are they doing it? Why are they doing that particular business? If it's just for the money, then you can't really help them. If it's for a purpose, that's something meaningful and fulfilling and service oriented, and it's providing someone with something that's going to enable them a better quality of life, then there's a true purpose behind it. Otherwise, I find it difficult to work to people that are just obsessed with money, because I said that I'm not here for that. I'm here. Exactly what you said is about the sustainability of creating a business. I can't promise like 6 figures, 7 figures, or whatever. Right? That'd be a lie if I tried to do that. That's just a marketing scam.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly what you said. Some people just need to know that every month I can pay the bills. Right? And then maybe I can progress on that. Every month I can pay the bills and have a bit of money to play with.
Yeah.
And then build upon that. And exactly how you're saying it, because that is the true reality. It's not about, I'll get you to 7 figures in 6 months. You know nothing about me, nothing about my skills and how I'm going to work, right? So it's that kind of the bullshit and the lies, that's just a marketing scam.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And one of the other problems is that people think it's going to be instant. No, business is not an instant thing at all. It might have the occasional firework that goes off and creates something fantastic and overnight success in inverted commas, because we know that doesn't happen. But proper business is done long term. And I don't work with people who think they're going to get instant results. I tell them straight, I'm not here for that. Same as you do. It's not going to work.
Okay, so what
after you?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. What's the name of your business?
It's Phoenix Rising Services.
Phoenix Rising Services. Right. And you have obviously a website?
I do, yes. It's phoenixrisingservices.uk.
Right. And who are, I'm going to ask a few questions, so you can answer them how you wish. So who are your typical clients? I mean, who would be your kind of your sweet spot, the ones that you'd want on a regular basis? And what services do you offer?
Okay. So clients I work with mostly are people who have come into business or want to start their own business. But definitely need guidance. They're stuck. It can also be people who are stuck at a crossroads in their life and very unhappy in their job, could have been passed over for promotions and all sorts of things like that. But they need a refresh. And maybe they've had an idea burning in the back of their mind that keeps coming back, that they want to do something for themselves, but they're not quite sure what. And they're also not quite sure how to get started on it. So I help those people to navigate all those different thought processes and really get down to the nitty-gritty, and then we make the plan according to whichever way they want to go. If it's a new career, I put them in touch with some people I know who work with the higher levels of jobs and help them create great CVs. And if it's a new business that they want to create, then we get to work on that, if I think it's a sustainable business. And alongside that, I also work with people who want to be more confident in their speaking skills. I teach networking skills, how to do it well, and also how to create and develop and deliver a lovely, engaging 60-second pitch, a 10-minute or 30-minute. And I can also take people through to become, at least start in the world of public speaking. because as far as my philosophy is concerned, it's so important that when you are an independent business owner, every time you speak about your business, you are marketing yourself and your business. So you have to be on show. You have to be confident in how you describe what you do. Because if you can't articulate it effectively, people will walk past and not engage with you. So every time you speak, you're hoping that people will engage with you. And when people ask me what I do, because the 7-second intro comes into the 60-second pitch as well, I say I help people change their lives. Because very often that's what I do. That's the end result. Because I create that confidence so that they can be much more outgoing and promote their business more effectively and therefore attract more clients to them. I help them to see that their business idea can be expanded and can actually be so much more than they thought it could be, because they've never had somebody at the side of them to guide and support them and say, come on, we can do this.
Yeah.
We absolutely can do this. It's just a little blip in the road. We'll get back on track. If people want to plan and want to get somewhere, then we have to keep taking the steps. And yes, you zigzag, of course, across the journey. But as long as you've got a plan, you can come back to it much more easily and pick up where you left off and still navigate those challenges through to success. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
Yeah, I love it. And yeah, there's many areas that we touched on there that you can really home in on and go into more detail. But I mean, you said it. I mean, it's like talking about a plan, a business plan, right? You don't just start doing something without kind of knowledge of where you're going. I always refer it to, I use the analogy of a holiday, right? I had a map of Italy, right? And I say, this is where I want to go in Italy. I want to go there. How am I going to get there? So this is my holiday. Where am I going to stay? How am I going to, what transport am I going to use? What route do I want to take to get there?
Yeah.
And yeah, there could be some challenges on the way. The road is blocked. There was an accident or something like that.
Mm.
But then I have to navigate around that. And yeah, and if you can picture that in your mind, that it is a route like going on holiday, because if we all go on holiday, at the end of the day, you get to the destination and you have a great holiday. But it's the journey to get there. It's not always smooth. And you're in an electric car and your battery's flat and there's no charging point or something. That could be a challenge on the way. How do you overcome that challenge? So when you can visualize a picture, then you can understand, well, I don't just get in my car and start driving. Do I need to put fuel in the car? Where am I going to start? I can't drive all 3 days or something to get there. I need to stop somewhere. Yeah. So yeah, I'm more the visualization of something, but you're exactly right in the way that you articulate something. You use earlier you said about the shop window. Right? Yes. You're in the high street and the shop window's boarded up. You just walk past it and look at the next shop. Right? If the shop window's attractive and it catches your eye, you might want to go in the shop. Right? Your shop window is not just your website, but it's also the way that you say something. If someone says, Pam, what do you do? And you say, I'm a self-employed business person. Okay, the conversation could stop dead.
Yes.
But if you said like an opener, like I typically help this type of clients navigate the complexities of their business and see better results at the end of it. And I think, wow. And then it begs the question of, tell me more. Right? And that's your shop window as well. That's your shop window in an articulated way using audio rather than visual.
Yeah.
So there's lots, because you said you shouldn't lose an opportunity. You're not selling yourself. You're promoting what it is that you're doing. And you never know who's going to be interested.
And more importantly, what you're actually doing is solving a problem. Because whatever business we offer, whatever service we offer, product, whatever it might be, somebody has a need for that. And when I'm teaching the creation of the 60-second or a business presentation, the focus is always on what is the end result for your client, because that is the problem you're solving. When you're talking to people, they may not realize they have that problem until you say something about it and you think, oh, I need to speak to you because that's exactly where I am.
Yeah. But in all businesses, I mean, if I look back at my career, I mean, in telecoms software sales, I would go out. I mean, I worked in a company that silos. I'm the sales guy, right? Then you have the marketing guy, then you have the product management guy, and so on, right? So I'm out there to sell. That's my role, is to sell. But then I need the material to sell. So I need marketing to help me. And then marketing will come along with some new features and functionality and say, well, with your next presentation, make sure you mention the new features and functionality. Right, so there's the sales guy. I've got my 101 slides in a boring slide deck, plus the 20 extra of the new products and features. Then my goal is there to get that meeting, and I've got to, within that hour, I've got to cram in these 120 slides now, and make sure I talk about the new features and functionality, because I need to tell the marketing person, I get a tick in the box, I presented it. But I've forgotten how to sell. I forgot to ask. I should be listening to them. What are your problems? Why am I here? What is it that you want to see? Because I've got this big slide deck, then maybe there's something in there. Maybe I don't need to show you it at all. Only to visualize, I show you that one slide and not the 120. The new features, you don't need to know about these new features yet, but I've got it in the back of my mind, just in case. But we don't do that. As sales guys, I was obsessed to get through that slide deck. And if I didn't have that slide deck, I couldn't go to the meeting.
But the ironic thing is that if you had just gone in and say, what is it you want? What do you need? You actually would have got more sales.
I found
because you would have been more direct.
It's true. The sales I did were in the coffee break or lunch or dinner with the client or potential client, because I opened up and asked them. I didn't have my slides in front of me then. I had to talk. What do you do during the day? What's the biggest challenge that you're facing? How could I make life easier? And then now gives them the chance to talk. Before, although I have the habit of it, it was me talking all the time. And so trying to present them something, I had no idea if they wanted it. I just needed to present those slides. So you could do it in the corporate world as well, because I guarantee every single corporate type of company, small to medium-sized business, are doing exactly the same sales way as I did it, because that is the only way you're learning from the senior sales guy who's got the results, because you're lucky enough in the coffee breaks that you're actually building this relationship, and then you're starting to see what it is they need. Though the rest is the bullshit. Right?
Absolutely.
Get rid of the bullshit and focus on exactly your meetings will be quicker. You'll get to the point. You won't get people looking at their watch and thinking I've got the dentist and they don't, and leaving or falling asleep or have another meeting.
Of course, people switch off.
Exactly.
Listening, and they may miss the important part of your presentation, because the rest of it was quite boring. They're boring because they didn't need to know it. Yes.
And you've managed to get all of the different various teams in, but you focus too much on one teams and not all the teams. And then you're presenting boring slides and you say, hang on a minute, I'm just going to get to that bit. No, let's start off in a completely different way. I see there's all the teams there. Let's go around in an order of what are your specific challenges. So I've got those identified. We could whiteboard it. And then we'll focus on them. Is anyone that particularly needs to go early? Let's do yours first.
Absolutely. I mean, even though I offer a structure of courses, these two clients I'm about to take on have cherry-picked the items that they need to actually focus on.
Excellent.
But I've taken the time to find out what it is that they need. So you don't need the whole of that course by any stretch of the imagination. What you need to focus on just now for the next 3 months is this bit. So let's focus on that bit. And flexibility allows me to respond much more effectively to the needs of my clients. And consequently, we get better results as a result. And they become a long-term client because I've focused on the immediate.
No, exactly. I love it. Because a program, you can have all the programs you want from A to Z, but a lot of the times you have to focus on their immediate need, although their immediate need could be an effect of something else. So you need that holistic view as well.
Yes, which is where your one-to-one comes in, and you have that conversation and find out. Being quite intuitive, I'll often turn around and say, well, actually, the problem's that, isn't it? Well, how did you know that? I never said anything about that. No, you didn't, but it's quite clear to me that this is where we need to look first. And when we've dealt with that, we can deal with this.
Right. So how do you advertise, and where do you advertise?
I am primarily on LinkedIn. I'm about to start and do a lot more business focus on LinkedIn. So people will see a lot of my interactions with other people. That's a different matter. But we've just completed the rebrand and the restructure for the company. And so I have got a page on LinkedIn, which is Phoenix Rising, and a lot of the business stuff will go on there. And then other than that, there is the website, and there is an email list which people can sign up to as well. But various different offers going on at the moment because I'm in launch mode. So over the rest of April particularly, and possibly into May, because there's a couple of new courses coming in May, there will be a considerable discount for people that want to engage with me in the moment.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, how did these two clients find you?
One I met through networking, and another one I've known probably 3 or 4 years. And she's been struggling with her business for some time. And we met a couple of weeks ago, again, caught up with each other at another meeting. And she said,
Okay. And how do you deliver? I mean, do you have to be in your local area? Is it face-to-face? Is it online? Is it a combination? How do you deliver your service?
It's a combination. If they're local, then I prefer face-to-face anyway. And certainly the initial meeting, or at least a couple of meetings, will be face-to-face because of the different connection that you get with people, the nuances and picking up signals. So it's face-to-face and over Zoom. I'm quite happy to do both.
So you could be completely global, international.
I could be, as long as they can speak English, because unfortunately I don't have any other languages.
Well, you have the Northampton. No, Nottingham accent, don't you? The Nottingham accent.
No, I'm mid-UK.
Okay.
Mid-class UK.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love what you do. There's a massive need for it. There's lots of people that need it, that don't know they need it, and they'll think that they'll struggle. I mean, I always say that because I went through this entrepreneurial journey as well. I'm thinking that if I become self-employed, I have to do it all, and I'm now in the deep end and get on and do it. So it doesn't work like that. I mean, every mentor needs a mentor. So even the mentors that we look at, I mean, you call it mentor, business advisor, a guide, a teacher, whatever you want to call, but you're looking at support and advice and help and guidance, and they needed it as well. You're not just born knowing everything.
No.
So even if I looked at some of the people that were my mentors, they tell me that they had mentors, and those mentors had mentors. So there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's like learning to drive a car. You can't just get in the car and read the handbook and start driving. Maybe a fraction of a percentage of people could do that, But most people need someone to sit beside them, hold their hand, and show them what they're doing, how to do it, and everything else. And that's exactly how I see a business coach, advisor. What do you actually call yourself? Because I know there's lots of taboo when people say I'm a business whatever. And do you have a certain name that you'd call yourself?
Transformation facilitator is one description, and system strategist and development.
Oh, very nice. I
don't like the word coach. I think it's in a lot of respects it's overused, and it's also indicative of people who think they are coaches because they've done a course.
I agree.
They haven't got a clue.
I work with I followed this entrepreneurial program for years, and then I find that people want to leave the corporate world to want to become life coaches, right? And it seemed to be a big buzz at the time. So off they went. They did a life coaching program, and next minute they've got this fancy website, and they're a life coach. And I think, hang on a minute, you're kind of still wet between the ears.
Yeah.
This is all new, and I'd rather go with someone that didn't advertise that. And just said, they've been around. I even think that maybe going right back to the beginning about education and stuff. A lot of things you can be self-taught or learn the ways or from experience. And I mean, I just remember like conversations you've had like, who could help you? Oh yeah, you're down the pub and you say, oh yeah, go to John. He knows everything about everything. Right? But he's not like got all these super duper like certificates behind his name. He's just knows everything. He knows a lot about things from experience.
Yes.
Right. And that's I think that's completely underestimated and undervalued. No, you have to have a certificate. You have to call yourself the coach. And I think, no, that's kind of the bullshit bit. You don't. Society seemed to want that. Where's your certificate in that? Well, what about my 20 years experience, hands-on doing it, and the results and all the happy people and clients I've got? It seems to mean nothing if you don't have that certificate.
But if you haven't got if you have got a certificate, all that proves is that you've been through the system. You have been indoctrinated to teach people the way they want to teach you.
Exactly. That's
why they discount the experience and expertise that you've already built up over 30, 40 years or whatever.
Yeah, I see that. So now you've got this 6 months, you've got the certificate. What's your experience? And then they come to try and sell your program. I said, is it your program? Oh, no, it's part of the society's program. I'm selling you that. So it's not even yours anyway.
It's actually borne out by the fact that most of my clients have been through a life coaching course or whatever course it might have been, and they've got a certificate. Where's the business?
Yeah.
Why are you coming to me if you've already got the certificate and you've got the business?
Exactly.
Because they haven't got a clue, because the course itself hasn't taught them how to actually create it.
Yeah, because people like us, we have to be creative. We have to think outside the box. I mean, I always say we're never in the box to have to think outside of it. But it's a different mentality and a different thinking. It's critical thinking as well, in the way that if we want to see results and we want to do something, the answers aren't always there. Sometimes you have to find them. Sometimes you have to look in different places. Sometimes you take a piece of this that works and a piece of that works, and you blend it together into something that feels good with you. And if it works good with you, try it out with some friends or other people to test it, get some feedback from them. And when it works, you can modify it. All right. But getting an off-the-shelf like life coaching or business coaching book, that to me that's not life coaching. That's exactly what you said. Is that indoctrination, kind of selling someone else's program, whether it's right or wrong, or you agree with all of it or a bit of it. That's not me.
It made me laugh actually, because when I was unemployed and saying I wanted to be my own boss, everything. They said, right, you've got to go on a business course then. Oh, okay. Okay, so they sent me on this business course. They sent me on 2. And I knew more than the blinking people doing the course. So in the end, I had to shut up because they were getting embarrassed that I knew more than they did. Because they had just gone through the process, but they'd got no experience.
Yeah. I love it. I tell you, we could talk for hours. I did something similar. I was invited. I pretended I was a startup so I could go on one of these young startup courses, right? And then I wanted to see how they presented and how the program would be. So I'm there like the newbie, although looking a lot older than the kind of the teenagers that were there. But I just said, oh, I've come out of the corporate world and I'm starting my own business. I'm clueless, and just to see how they would do it. And so I get into this free training, right, as a student.
Yeah.
And the way they do it, it's just textbook, right? We do this bit, this bit, this bit, this bit, but there's no reason. Where's the why in it? Also, I forgot to mention about Simon Sinek and his why. I thought it was great, but then so before you get to your why, you have to know your who. Who the hell are you?
Yeah.
What is it that you have to offer? What are your gifts? What I wanted to touch on, I know you mentioned about teaching, this is kind of teaching in the work that you do, strategizing with people and helping them grow their business. That is teaching. The orchestration bit where you did the planning and everything else, this is in it because you're helping them with a strategy that's a plan. So you're orchestrating that, so you're using that as well. But where's the geography bit come into it?
The geography now comes into the fact that I can get myself from any point in the UK to any other point in the UK. And I have a very good understanding of where the different countries in the world lie. You know, some people these days haven't got a clue about their worldwide geography or even local geography. They don't seem to go anywhere these days. But I think that came from my father, because he was, for a lot of my younger years, he was employed with the GPO, as it was then, General Post Office. And he was one of the first people in the country to be working on installing and creating telephone systems. Because I am that old. But so yes, he used to travel up and down the country, and I would say, where are you? Where are you going? And he would get the map out and show me.
Yeah, excellent. Now, which is very important, because having lived in the UK, and then when I first went to live in the Netherlands, and I went to live in Utrecht, and the recruiter was saying, yeah, you've got to go to Utrecht. I said, where? Where's that? What country is that in? And I said, well, this is the Netherlands. It's like kind of in the middle of the country. And I thought, never heard of it. So once I did work abroad, then it gave that understanding of Europe much better, because every week I was on a plane to a different country within Europe. So I start to understand the geography, the cultures, the people, the languages, the habits, the way they did things. And it really opens your mind to a lot.
Yeah, so I do want to get back to travelling. I've not done very much in these recent years, but I do want to travel again, because I love to go to different countries and, like you, learn about the people. Yeah.
You have to come here and we do a program together.
That would be fantastic.
It would.
I'd love that, yeah.
I would love it. So anyway, Pam, I know we can talk and talk and talk, especially me.
Well, it seems like it. We've been on a lot longer than we thought we were.
Yeah, so I know we had a bit of pre-talk before, and there's many topics that we could discuss, but I think it's a good point now to kind of wrap this up. You've got a fantastic journey. I mean, it's been a roller coaster ride. You've gone from highs to lows, and gone to the kind of the burnt out, the stress, the feeling useless, to hopefully being on a high now, and having something that I truly see from how you've explained it, what you've done with the business, only more and more success is going to come. You're going to bring the joy to others that are struggling. And I love what you do. It resonates so much with me because I've been there, and I kind of overlaps in the way that we do similar things and the mindset. So it's good to be able to talk to someone that you feel that connection, even though you don't know each other, because of what your experience and everything else. So, Pam, you've been an absolutely fantastic guest.
Thank you very much. It's been great to be here.
Yeah, it's been a long time in coming, so I do apologize for keeping you hanging on.
No problem at all.
And
that's life, isn't it?
Yeah. And I know we'll stay in touch, typically through LinkedIn and other ways. And book another call with me, because I in the questionnaire I asked if you wanted to follow up with anything else, like LinkedIn profiles and stuff. Book a call. So do that, and I'll just give you some tips on maybe ways you can improve LinkedIn profile as well.
Yeah.
But other than that, you've been a fantastic guest, as I said, and the show notes will go on the recording, so we can catch up on this on Zoom. The links, so if I haven't got them already, then I'll just check up with you and make sure I've got all the links that you want to share. If there's anything else you want to share to direct people to you, then let me know and I'll put them in. Then once this is kind of cleaned up and edited with the top and front and back end, I'll put it on YouTube, as I said, and the audio will go on Spotify. Then you can share it with whomever you wish.
Okay, lovely. I'll send you a copy of my latest business card, so I'll pop that through on an email electronically.
Yeah, if there's anything that I can also impose into the image or something, I can add that. If you've got, actually another thing, if you've got anything like any promotional video, I can connect and link to that or anything else. I mean, this is for you to help advertise your business and what you do. And the person, which I always find the most interesting, the person behind the business.
Yeah.
It's not just about the business. You can help any business, but what's the person? Who is the person? Why are they doing what they're doing? And your story is beautiful.
That's where you get the best results, when you connect with somebody like that who resonates with you, so that you can really offload a lot of stuff. Because you need to get underneath the surface again to find out what the person's really like.
You have to write a book beneath the surface. But it can apply to so many different things, but also like helping people with their business.
Yes.
And it helps find out why they want this particular business and what is it that they're aiming to achieve.
Definitely.
Okay. So on that note, I wish you a fantastic weekend.
Thank you very much. Same to you.
Okay. Yes. And take care. We'll be in touch.
Lovely. Thank you very much for your time. It's been grand.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Wow. That was another Featured Business brought to you by Visibility Impact. If you'd like to be our next featured guest or learn how James Moffat can help you leverage on the art and power of interactive storytelling for your business, reach out and schedule a call now.